What would you do if you overheard something that could ruin a man's entire life? Would you shrug, tell yourself it's none of your business, clock out and go home? Or would you open your mouth knowing it might cost you your job, your safety, maybe even more? For a 23-year-old waitress named Emily Carter, that wasn't some late-night thought experiment. It was the moment everything in her life changed forever. It happened on a soggy Tuesday night at Harbor Grill, a diner that smelled like burnt toast and grease no matter how much bleach you scrubbed the floors with. That place was Emily's whole world. 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. She carried plates-filled coffee cups, smiled at strangers while her back ached and her feet screamed. At 23, she had a brother to raise a mountain of debt left behind by her father's heart surgery and no way out except grinding double shifts. Emily had learned how to read people the way some folks read books. After enough first dates, breakups, and lonely old men sipping soup, you start noticing the little tells: who's lying, who's kind, who's out to use somebody. That night, the rain kept tapping on the windows, and when the door swung open, 2 men walked in who did not belong. The first one, Daniel Hayes, looked exhausted in the quiet way a man does when he's been carrying the weight of the world too long. Mid-40s, simple sweater jeans that were tailored but not flashy. His eyes were tired but kind. Emily pegged him for old money, or more likely self-made someone who'd tasted hunger once and never forgot it. The other town. Victor Lane was the exact opposite. Flashy suit hair, slicked smile sharp enough to cut glass. He clapped Daniel on the back like they were college buddies, though the gesture felt forced, like he was showing off for the room. Emily slid up with her notepad. "Evening, gentlemen. Can I get you started with some drinks?" Daniel looked up at her with a small smile. "Just coffee. Black. Make it 2. Victor interrupted, teeth gleaming. Then with a smirk, "No wine list, huh? Guess we'll survive. Just coffee, sweetheart." That word sweetheart came out like a slap. Emily had heard it before from men trying to remind her she was just a waitress. But with him it was worse. It was a performance meant to put her in her place while Daniel watched. She kept her professional smile, but inside alarms went off. From the counter, she watched the 2 of them. Daniel barely touched his coffee eyes, drifting toward the rain. Victor leaned in hands, moving voice low but insistent, pitching something with all the greasy confidence of a salesman. Emily didn't know stocks from bonds, but she knew predators, and she could see Daniel was the prey. Then came the moment that changed everything. A little boy at the next booth dropped his fork, and it skittered under Daniel and Victor's table. Emily crouched down to grab it, and that's when she heard Victor's voice shift. "No, he's not in yet, but he's close. He's sentimental, getting soft," Victor hissed into his phone. "Yeah, the Orion front will cover it. Once he signs, I funnel everything through the Caymans. By the time he figures it out, Hayes Global is nothing but an empty shell. He'll be ruined. The board won't see it coming." Emily froze. Her stomach dropped like a stone. This wasn't business talk. This was betrayal, plain and simple. A friend gutting another from the inside. She snagged the fork, stood up, forced a smile at the boy's mom, but inside she was shaking. When Daniel came back from the restroom, Victor's fake grin was plastered on again, smooth as silk. Emily looked at Daniel stirring his coffee, trusting the man across from him, and her gut twisted. Her shift was almost over. She could clock out, go home, forget it. Or she could risk everything and warn him. Her heart pounded as the men stood to leave. She walked over, ignoring Victor's stare that was colder than a knife. Looking Daniel straight in the eye, she whispered, "Sir, please, don't sign anything. Don't trust everyone who calls himself your friend. Double-check everything, the shell corporations, the secondary assets. Get someone outside to review it. Please." Silence fell like a weight. Daniel frowned, confused. Victor's smile vanished, his eyes narrowing into pure menace. "What the hell are you doing?" he spat. "Fishing for a bigger tip." He yanked Daniel's arm. "She's crazy. Let's go." But Daniel didn't move. He just looked at Emily, really looked. And in her eyes he saw it wasn't a game. She was terrified, but she spoke anyway. Finally he said softly, "Thank you for the coffee." And he left Victor trailing, throwing Emily a glare that promised payback. Emily stood there, trembling, legs weak. She'd either done the dumbest thing in her life or the bravest. That night she barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Victor's face, twisted in fury. She told herself she'd be fired in the morning, maybe worse. But the next day, something happened she could never have imagined. Around mid-morning, a sound roared down her run-down street. Not the usual clunky pickups or mufflers backfiring, but a low, smooth purr of power. She peeked out the window, and her jaw dropped. And Aston Martin DB11. Black as midnight, sat at the curb, like it had landed from another planet. Neighbors were staring, whispering. The driver, a tall man in a black suit and sunglasses, climbed out holding a velvet box and a cream-colored envelope. He knocked on her door, calm as could be. "Miss Emily Carter." She managed a nod. "I'm Arthur. Mr. Hayes asked me to deliver this." He handed her the envelope, the box, and finally, a car key with the Aston Martin logo gleaming. "The car is yours, fully registered. Please read the letter." Emily's hands shook as she opened it. Inside, in neat handwriting. "Miss Carter, last night you were braver than you know. You were right. More right than you could imagine. This car is a small token of gratitude, though it cannot repay the courage you showed. But I must ask for more tomorrow at 9 a.m. Please come to Hayes Tower. We need to speak. What you stepped into is larger than you realize. Please be safe." Emily sat stunned. This wasn't just gratitude. This was an invitation into a storm. The next morning, dressed in her one black dress, Emily and her brother Ryan rode a sleek town car to the 60-story tower that bore Daniel's name. The lobby shimmered with marble and glass people in suits, moving with purpose. Emily felt completely out of place, but Arthur ushered her upstairs. When the elevator doors opened, she stepped into an office bigger than her entire apartment. Daniel Hayes stood by the window, the skyline spread out behind him. "Miss Carter," he said, calm but firm. "You saved me. What you overheard wasn't just a shady deal. It was treason. Victor Lane was draining my company dry, ready to vanish. My investigators confirmed it last night. He slid a file across the desk fraud shell company's millions about to disappear. And then he said the words that made Emily's blood run cold. Before he fled, Victor made one phone call. 10 seconds. The transcript reads, "The waitress from the diner. Find her. Make it hurt." Emily's chest tightened. He knew. He knew it was her. Daniel's voice softened. "I am deeply sorry for the danger you're in. The car, the phone, they weren't just gifts. They were to get you safe. You can't go back to that apartment. He'll look for you there." Emily thought of her brother. Thought of Victor's eyes when she'd spoken up. She was already in the fire. Then Daniel leaned forward. "I need to ask something unorthodox. You saw through Victor in a way none of my advisors did. You caught his arrogance, my hesitation, the tiny cracks. That instinct, it's rare. I want you to work with me. Sit in on meetings. Watch, listen. Tell me who's lying, who's loyal. I don't need another executive. I need someone who sees the truth." Emily almost laughed. "Me? I'm a waitress. I have a high school diploma and a few online classes I couldn't even finish. What could I possibly? You can, Daniel cut in gently. You will, because integrity can't be taught. And you have it. It sounded insane. Yet looking at him, at the weight in his eyes, Emily felt something stir. For once, someone saw her not as invisible, but as essential. She thought of Ryan, of the debts of the years scraping by. She thought of how alive she'd felt when she chose to warn him. Finally, she met his gaze. Okay, she said, steady now. I'll do it. And just like that, her life changed. 3 months later, Emily Carter was unrecognizable. Gone was the diner uniform. Now she wore tailored suits, carried herself with a quiet confidence. She'd sat in boardrooms where billion-dollar deals were made, unnoticed, underestimated, while she studied every nervous twitch, every forced laugh. And more than once, her observations saved Hayes' global millions. One afternoon, Daniel walked into her small office and placed a tablet on her desk. The headline nearly made her knees buckle. Victor Lane arrested in Switzerland, charged with international fraud. His smirk replaced by a mugshot glare. Daniel's voice was calm. It's finished. He can't hurt anyone now. Because of you. Emily let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. It was over. The danger, the fear, the constant question of, what have I done, finally lifted. But as she stood by the window overlooking the city, she knew something else too. She was no longer just the waitress from Harbor Grill. She hadn't left that version of herself behind she'd built on it. The courage that night had given her a new life. And yet, here's the real question. Was she right to do it? To step into a world of betrayal and power where one whisper could make her a target? Some people would say she should have stayed quiet, kept her head down. Others would say speaking up was the only choice someone with a conscience could make. So I'll leave it to you. If you were in Emily's shoes, would you have stayed silent or risked everything to tell the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about integrity, about the price of courage, about the times you've seen people stand up or stay quiet. And if this story made you feel something, hit that like button, share it with a friend who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because sometimes one terrifying choice is all it takes to rewrite your whole life.